Jeff Skunk Baxter was more than just a guy with that walrus mustache and aviator shades. He was a guitar chameleon who shaped the sound of two major American rock bands before shifting into a widely diverse solo career. Born in Washington, D.C. in 1948, Baxter cut his teeth as a session guitarist in the late 60s and soon found himself co-founding Steely Dan. His melodic leads and jazz-informed licks became a defining part of the band's early sound on albums like Countdown to Ecstasy and Pretzel Logic. But when Steely Dan decided to stop touring in '74, Baxter pivoted, joining the Doobie Brothers in the beginning as a guest artist on albums like Their Third, The Captain and Me, and its follow-up, What Were Once Vices Are Now Habits, in '74. But by 1975, Jeff Skunk Baxter was a full-fledged member of the Doobie Brothers on their Stampede album. He went on to becoming a mainstay on records like Taking It to the Streets, featuring a new lead singer, Michael McDonald, which was suggested by Jeff. That was 1976. He was also in the fold for Living on the Fault Line in '77, and their biggest one the following year, Minute by Minute. But by 1979, creative differences between him and Michael McDonald caused him to leave the band. He was growing restless, hungry to explore funk, synths, rhythms, and a lot more. Just months later, in April '79, Italian disco pioneer Giorgio Moroder hired Baxter to play the searing guitar solo on Donna Summer's Hot Stuff. The track exploded, reaching #1 on the Billboard charts. Through the years, he has played with so many artists: Hoyt Axton, Eric Clapton, Sheryl Crow, Joni Mitchell, Ricky Nelson, Dolly Parton, Carly Simon, Ringo Starr, Barbra Streisand, and a host of others. Why'd you leave the Doobie Brothers? Why'd you leave Steely Dan?
Well, I left Steely Dan because Mr. Becker and Mr. Fagan had decided they didn't want to tour anymore. And I really enjoyed playing live. It's a dichotomy, being a session rat and being a live performer. And I was actually on tour with the Doobies in the band. At the time, I was playing with 3 different bands: Steely Dan, Doobie Brothers, and Linda Ronstadt, playing pedal steel. So I was at the Nebworth Music Festival with the Doobies, and when I hung up the phone, I said, "Well, that's kind of it for me and Steely Dan." They said, "Well, now you're in the Doobie Brothers." Okay, roger that.
Well, you'd played on 2 previous albums anyway before you officially became a member, so.
That's true. As a studio musician, my job was to come in and add whatever it is that they needed, do what I can, playing pedal steel, playing acoustic guitar, playing, whatever was needed. That's my job.
Were you ever going to be on One Step Closer with the Doobies?
I'm sorry?
Were you ever going to be on One Step Closer with the Doobie Brothers? Did you work on that?
The album?
Yeah. Were you ever going to be on that? Or were you at all?
No. I had already left by then. I think that was something they did after I had left.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if you somehow didn't look at, usually I look at the liner notes before I meet someone, before I talk to someone. And why did you leave the Doobies? Like what?
Well, kind of the same thing. It gets to a point as a change agent, which I think I am, you have to know when it's time to go and do something else. And after I brought Michael McDonald into the band and radically changed the band, kind of like what happened with Fleetwood Mac, there comes a time when, from a creative standpoint, it's time. You just got to know. And so I was also starting to really get into producing records. And it's hard to produce something when you're out on the road. I did it once and it was very difficult. I mean, listening to, finding a Best Buy that I could go into and find a turntable that I could, listen to the test pressings. Okay, I think this is right. While people are trying to buy, blenders and refrigerators. It's just, you only have so many hours in a day.
What was the reaction? There it is right there, taking it to the streets. What was the reaction with the band? That's such a different animal. It's strange. When I bought that album, I noticed a big difference, but then again, I didn't. I kept going, it's the Doobie Brothers still. What was that I would have thought that was a hard sell, but that was a successful album.
Which album was that?
Taking It to the Streets.
Oh, well, it was compelling. I mean, Michael's songwriting, excellent. And his R&B background, something that, again, I have a strong R&B background. It's basically the song itself is a gospel tune. I mean, as a musicologist, that's what that is. And gospel is inescapable in its ability to reach out and envelop you in a joyous embrace, I guess would be the word. It's pretty compelling.
How did you coexist, for instance, when you were in the Doobies with Pat? How do you coexist? I mean, ask Caleb Quay, and I know you did that stint with Elton, well, the live I'm talking about, the big one. But how do you coexist with another guitarist, with Walter and Steely Dan? I mean, how does that with Denny? How do you approach that as a guitarist?
Well, I guess my perspective has always been one of this as a studio musician. And if you want to be a successful studio musician, you have to learn to listen. And you also, there is an etiquette amongst players that develops where you give space to other players. It's always interesting when sometimes you go in and, young players or folks that have never had much experience in the studio, all they do is they just want to play and play and play and play more and more and more and more. And you sort of sit back and you go, okay, that's what you want to do. Sooner or later, you'll wear yourself out, and then we'll get down to business. So to me, it's a question of etiquette and a question of understanding that everyone has something to offer and finding the best way to pull all that together, to assemble that in a way where everybody can interact in a way that produces the best product.
Why did Elliot Randall do the solo and Reeling in the Years? It was that like the beginning or a germ of Walter and Donald just having this vision of what the song, I mean, how did that happen?
Well, Elliot was a friend of mine. I mean, we'd played together when we were kids, meaning, when we were like teenagers. So it just made sense. I mean, I have no problem. Again, I'm a studio guy, right guy for the job. And I thought he did an incredible job. There were other songs that Denny played on, which was killer. And then there were songs that was right for me. So again, I just look at it as from a professional music standpoint. It's the right guy for the job.
So ego hasn't gotten in your way of getting done what you needed to get done, it sounds like, because I hear ego, even though people don't say that word when I talk to them. I mean, I'm 62. I've interviewed a lot of people I love, but why isn't that part of your software?
Well, we all have an ego. And I think.
Yeah, but it doesn't sound like it got in your way of getting to do what you had to do, though.
Well, I think maybe it was my upbringing. My father had taught me that the most important thing is doing a great job, and nothing should stand in the way. And we're all human, of course. And I'm not, the perfect, egoless person sailing through the world. And one of the things my dad did teach me was how to channel energy. I mean, he wasn't a guru. He was senior vice president of the world's largest advertising agency. But the idea being that to be creative, there are things that will waste your energy. There are things that will draw off your energy, ego being one of them. So if you have this feeling, channel that into doing a great job. Use that force. Use the force, Luke.
It's May 4th, by the way. It's May 4th. It's May 4th, so it's May the 4th be with you today anyway.
That's right. So I guess I took my dad's advice to heart, and it also leaves you less vulnerable, because I think if you're driven by your ego, it creates sometimes situations that will eventually affect you in a negative manner. It's like, again, my dad taught me that if I'm faced with a problem, my first thought should be, wow, this is cool. Yeah, okay. As opposed to, oh God, what am I going to do?
Waste of energy. Yeah.
Waste of time.
Yeah.
Absolutely.